So to help you, the consumer, we have gathered 8 of different shapes and sizes to find out which one is the best 3-row crossover.
So in 8th place, we've got the Chevy Traverse, and it comes with a familiar 3.6 liter V6 mated to a 6-speed automatic and an all-wheel drive system. The powertrain makes 288 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. And on paper, that might sound like plenty, but this SUV actually weighs just under 5,000 pounds, which puts it at the second heaviest in the comparison overall, just behind the Dodge Durango. You could probably guess that means that this thing sucks quite a bit of fuel. In fact, we average 17 miles per gallon, which again is just a hair off of the V8 powered Dodge. Now those all probably sound like knocks against the vehicle, and to be fair, it did come in last place. But it has some advantages. For example, this thing is huge. For some perspective, it sits somewhere in between a Tahoe and a Suburban for interior cargo volume when you lay all the seats down. This thing costs about 44 grand, and at that price, the features list is pretty sparse. Still, you know, it's got its own kind of appeal. It's kind of like the mom jeans of this comparison test. It ain't pretty, it's probably gonna be pretty kid-friendly, and it's very roomy.
Coming in 7th place at a price of just over $50,000 is the Ford Explorer Limited all-wheel drive. Now, to get an Explorer over 50 grand requires selecting a lot of options, and our vehicle included things like adaptive cruise, dual-pane moonroof, and of course the mysterious 302A option package. Besides being expensive, the Explorer is also thirsty, had the worst rated second row of seats, and has some spotty fit and finish inside. And I'll avoid going on another My Ford Touch rant. Things we do like about the Explorer, though, include the way it drives. The 290 horsepower 3.5 liter V6 combined with a soft suspension made this one of the most car-like vehicles to drive. Fuel economy, though, at 18.7 miles per gallon is not very car-like. Honestly, this vehicle isn't all that bad. It's just outdated and outclassed now. It is one of the few here, though, that is semi-serious about off-roading, and thanks to the new Police Interceptor edition, when you have a white Explorer like we do, the highway just seems to separate for you as you drive down the road.
In 6th place, we've got the Honda Pilot, and considering how old this thing is, it really sort of speaks volumes about its quality that it didn't come in dead last. I mean, when this generation was introduced, Obama was being sworn into office. Under the hood, you've got a 3.5 liter V6 that puts out 250 horsepower through a 5-speed automatic. It's all pretty old and outdated, and yet it seems to work. You know, the features list is pretty bare. You get stuff that you'd find in pretty much every other vehicle in this comparison, like automatic windows, you get a sunroof, navigation, cruise control, but there's nothing really special here. The model we're driving today costs just about $42,000, and that puts it right in the middle of the pack. But the important thing here is that this car actually beat out the Ford Explorer, which bests it in almost every category if you compare it from a technological perspective. We averaged 20 miles per gallon through our testing, and there's one other thing that I want to mention. The Pilot's center console is absolutely huge. All that comes together to underscore one thing to me. A vehicle that gets the fundamentals right. It has a solid powertrain and an easy-to-live-with practical cabin can still be good, even if it's technologically outdated. On the other hand, the boxy shape creates a lot of wind noise when you're driving on the highway, the suspension feels squishy, and I'd like it better if the steering felt a little tighter.
Coming in 5th place is the Kia Sorento SX all-wheel drive that, at almost $39,000, lists just higher than the cheapest in test Toyota Highlander. This is by far the most responsive vehicle in this test when it comes to engine and handling. That makes it the sportiest crossover, but that really doesn't mean much in this segment. With the 290 horsepower 3.3 liter V6, the Sorento rivals the Hemi-powered Durango as quickest vehicle here. Now that may not sound possible until you realize the nearly 3,900 pound Sorento has a 1,500 pound weight advantage over the Durango. This lightness also adds up when it comes to fuel economy, as the Sorento had an observed average of only 22 miles per gallon, which was second best after the hybrid. The sporty pretensions of this vehicle do hurt it in other ways though. The suspension is by far the harshest, and bumps can be felt all throughout the chassis. The tires don't provide much grip, and although the front seat is fairly comfortable, there is a bit of a lack of headroom. We do like the center stack better than its corporate cousins from Hyundai, and the clean, simple layout of all the controls are easy to use. However, the rest of the interior does look cheap, the navigation system is out of date, and the vehicle as a whole is on the smaller side. The compact Sorento does represent a good value and comes with Kia's killer warranty. It gives the driver the illusion that they have a sportier crossover than the rest, even if that's not true. If price and fuel efficiency are important to you and space isn't, this is your crossover.
Nissan's Pathfinder Hybrid takes 4th place, and it's the only hybrid we've got in this comparison test. It's also the only 4-cylinder. If you follow our videos, you might remember that that's the opposite of what we said when we did a direct comparison between the Santa Fe and the Pathfinder last year. But the important thing here is that this is the hybrid, and that makes all of the difference. It lost minimal points for styling, but the real hit was with the powertrain. It's pretty gutless on the highway, it just doesn't have much power to pass, and with 250 horsepower and 243 pound-feet of torque, it's got as much horsepower as the Pilot, but overall it's actually the weakest powertrain. Now, we did average 24 miles per gallon, which was the most efficient crossover that we've got in this comparison, but that's actually not that much better than the Santa Fe, which doesn't rely on a hybrid and has quite a bit more power. The transition between electric and gasoline power can also be a little bit rough, and you can get a shuddering feeling coming through the steering wheel that could just be quite a bit better. And that underscores another point that I want to make. This car probably would have scored quite a bit better and placed higher if we'd had the V6 option instead of the hybrid. The Pathfinder isn't exactly cheap to start, and adding the hybrid system makes it even more expensive. As we've got this car option, it costs just under $45,000, and that puts it roughly mid-pack. But you got to remember that we've also got the pie-in-the-sky, priced like crazy Durango to compete with that, so it sort of throws things off a little bit. I think what we're seeing here in this test is that the hybrid powertrain's benefits might be sort of negligible compared to their drawbacks. There are also some little things that would bug me if I owned this car. For example, there's spaces in the center console that are really hard to clean.
And that brings us to the 3 finalists.
Each of these is proven to have more strengths than weaknesses, but which one will win?
Hyundais have always been value-packed cars, and the Santa Fe Limited all-wheel drive is no exception. This 3-row crossover starts at just over $41,000, and that includes heated and cooled seats, a heated steering wheel, navigation system, and an all-glass massive sunroof. But Hyundai is over making just value cars. For years now, the manufacturer has been making good cars as well. They've tapped into the secret formula that Japanese manufacturers have been using for years of making the exact vehicle consumers want. The Santa Fe has above average ride quality and above average NVH. The 3.3-liter 290 horsepower engine is more than enough for this vehicle, although the heavier Santa Fe obviously feels a little slower than the lighter Sorento. Fuel economy is still very impressive though, at 21.2 miles per gallon average during our test period. We all like the interior layout of the Santa Fe, especially these brown seats and the easy to use center stack. The downside though is with the limited edition you only get 6 seats. If you need to carry 7 or more people, better get the Highlander. Hyundai has taken a page from Toyota's playbook and created a vehicle that does everything well and doesn't offend in any area. Add in a great warranty and a low price, and this clearly is a top 3 vehicle in this comparison.
The Highlander is a perfect example of why Toyota does so well as a company consistently. It doesn't really run away with any of the categories individually, but it always scores in the upper end of average, and that's enough to put it in the top 3. The V6 engine makes 270 horsepower, although honestly it feels more powerful than that, which is a pretty common trait for Toyota vehicles in general. We average just over 20 miles per gallon, and again that puts it really just right around the middle of the pack. The handling is predictable and consistent. It does a great job of soaking up road bumps. You get a big center console to store stuff in. You know, everything about it really just kind of finds its way into being easy to live with. To top it all off, this is actually the least expensive crossover in this comparison, if you can believe it. The model that we've got costs just over $38,000, and part of that's because it's pretty low on options. You can spend more and you can get more content if you'd like, but the point is, Toyota keeps proving that you really don't need to. I mean, what they give you at that price really is kind of enough.
Like the Ford Explorer, the Dodge Durango came loaded up with almost every option possible and pushed the price to over $53,000. This Dodge can be summed up in 2 words, big and smooth. It has the smoothest engine, smoothest transmission, and one of the smoothest rides. It has the biggest amount of power, biggest number of gears, biggest weight, biggest price, and the biggest thirst for fuel. 16.7 miles per gallon, as we experienced, is hard to swallow. Most agreed the 8-speed automatic is the best transmission here, and the 360 horsepower Hemi V8 made a sound that would put all other engines to shame. That said, the immense weight of this vehicle didn't make the power feel all that spectacular, and some found the transmission was reluctant to downshift. But the Durango is more than just a great drivetrain. It has a sophisticated, comfortable suspension setup, an elegant interior, the highest rated third row seats, great leather on all seating surfaces, a comfortable second row, and of course, the best damn infotainment system on the market today. But not everything is great inside the Durango. The upper portion of the front seats feels like a hard wooden board, and the fit and finish is just okay in spots. Let me get one thing clear though, this is the best vehicle in the comparison. But like the saying goes, you get what you pay for, and the Durango does cost a lot of money and requires a lot of fuel. Were these two issues enough to keep it out of top spot?
So is it the value-packed Hyundai Santa Fe, the loaded Dodge Durango, or does the affordable, low-priced Toyota Highlander take the crown?
Well, once all the scores were totaled up, one clear winner emerged. It is a vehicle that seems to do it all. It's affordable, spacious, comfortable, efficient, and it comes with all the technology consumers are looking for. The winner of the 2014 AutoGuide.com 3-row crossover comparison test is the Hyundai Santa Fe.